A very good morning, dear children. Welcome back to the Social Science class, day 4. Today, let's begin with History, Chapter 1. What, where, how, and when. As you can see, the chapter is beginning with 4 question words. So, we will try to find out the answers for some questions like what can we know about the past? Where did people live in the past? How do we get to know about that? When did all these happen? At first, I would like to ask you a question. How can we find what happened long years back? We can read newspapers or watch television to find what is happening around us. For all the current affairs, we are get in touch with the internet or news channels. Similarly, we can talk to our friends or relatives or maybe parents to know about what happened in the last year. But when we talk about long years ago, how to know? Let's see how can we get the answer for this question. First, we will begin with what does our past teach us, or what can we know about the past? There are several things that we can find out from our past. Some of them are what people ate, the kinds of clothes they wore, the houses in which they lived, the lifestyle, or the work the people did. Now, let's see where all we can see the existence of human life from the history. Some of them are number 1, River Narmada. The location of River Narmada, as you can see from the map, it's flowing through Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. People lived along the banks of river for several years. They were skilled gatherers. It means people who gathered or collected their food. They collected roots, fruits, and other forest products. They had good knowledge about the wealth of plants in the surrounding forest. Some of them hunted animals also. So they were hunters too. So these were the some features of people lived on the banks of river Narmada. Next we'll see Suleiman Hills and Kirtar Hills to the northwest. These hills can be seen in Balochistan. It's a portion of Pakistan. Here, people began to grow crops such as wheat and barley about 8,000 years ago. They also began rearing animals like sheep, goat, and cattle. And they lived in villages. Next, let's read about Garo Hills to the northeast and the Vindhyas in central India. The location of Garo Hills is in Meghalaya. It's a northeastern state. And Vindhyas we can see through the central India. These were the areas where agriculture developed. And rice was the first grown crop to the north of the Vindhyas. Let's move to River Indus and its tributaries. When I say tributaries, it means the smaller river that flow into a larger river. I repeat, the smaller river that flow into a larger river. For example, River Indus has so many smaller rivers joining it. Some of them are River Ravi, River Kabul, River Suru, River Gilgit, and so on. About 4,700 years ago, some of the earliest cities flourished on the banks of these rivers. The location of River Indus, it's flowing from Pakistan through India and towards China. So we can see on the banks of River Indus, cities started coming up. And it was because many Iranians and Greek people used to visit these area. Next, we'll move on to River Ganga and its tributaries. You all might be familiar with River Ganga. It flows from Uttarakhand to Uttar Pradesh, covering Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and to Bangladesh. About 2,500 years ago, cities developed on the banks of River Ganga. In ancient times, the area to the south of River Ganga was known as Magad, that is today's Bihar. The rulers of Magad were very powerful, so they set up a large kingdom. Kingdoms were set up in other parts of the country as well. So I hope children, you all are now clear with the areas where people lived in the past. Let's move on to how people shared ideas. How people shared their ideas. When we study history, throughout we can see people traveled from one part of the subcontinent to another. Their journeys were dangerous at times, but never impossible. Some of them moved in search of livelihood or to escape from the natural disasters like flood, etc. Some of them marched in armies to conquer other lands. And we can also see merchants traveled in caravans and ships. Caravan, you already might have learned in class 3 EVS, it's a house on wheels. So these merchants, they used to travel in caravans and ships, carrying valuable goods from place to place. Religious teachers walked from village to village, town to town, to offer instructions and advices. Some people traveled for adventure as they wanted to discover new exciting places. And the moral is that all these led to the sharing of ideas between people. Also, it enriched our culture and traditions. While traveling, people shared new ways of carving stones, composing music, and even so many cooking recipes over hundreds of years. Next, we'll move to names of our land. We often use two words for our country. They are India and Bharat. The word India comes from the Indus, called Sindhu in Sanskrit. When we were talking about River Indus, I shared about the Iranians and the Greeks who came through the northwest. So about 2,500 years ago, These people were familiar with the Indus and they called it as Hindus or Indus. And later, the land to the east of the river was called India. So, this is the history behind the name India. Next, the name Bharat was used for a group of people who lived in the northwest. It is mentioned in Rig Veda. It is the earliest composition in Sanskrit. Later, this name was used for our country. So, we got two names for our country, that is India and Bharat. So, children, I hope you all might have understood today's topic. Let's do a quick revision. So today we learned our past teaches us about the eating habits, clothing, types of houses, lifestyle of people, etc. People lived in many places. Some of the areas are banks of river Narmada, Suleiman Hills, Kirtar Hills, Garo Hills, river Indus, river Ganga, etc. Similarly, people traveled from one place to another for sharing ideas. So now I want you to write the answers for some of the questions given here. Some fill-ups I have added. I'll read it for you. The first big kingdom was dash. You have to name the kingdom. It was on the banks of river Ganga. Hunting and gathering was done on the banks of river dash. It flows through Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Cities about 2500 years ago developed on the banks of river dash. Early dash was developed in the areas near Garo Hills. The first cities flourished on the banks of river dash. Few question answers. Number 1. What can we know about the past? How traveling from one place to another enriched our culture? It has so many points. Maybe you can write down any 4 points. And the last question, what is the history behind the name of our country, India? We have two names, India and Bharat. What was the history behind that? I hope you all might be able to write down the answer for this. These are very simple questions. Please try to do it. Till then, take care. Bye. Thank you.